How's it? Welcome back. So this will be a very random video, way off topic from what I typically post on the channel. And I'm sure it will service just about none of my regulars who like to stop by and check out my work. Unless they too also happen to be into PlayStation 5 video games, then maybe they'll find it useful. But then I also kind of get a kick out of thinking about someone who, say, randomly stumbles across this video. Maybe they like it for whatever reason, so they want to check out my other work, and then they realize I never talk about this kind of shit like ever. But who knows, maybe that could be like their little gateway into the lucid dreaming practice. So maybe it could be of benefit to them like that. But anyway, what I wanted to talk about today is PlayStation 5 controllers, and specifically what I feel is like the best one out there, because recently I stumbled across a really damn good one. Now, it's not perfect. There's something very obvious they could do to make this controller the absolute hand-downs best controller ever, but we'll get to that in a second. So the main controller I want to talk about is this thing right here. This is the Hex Phantom fancy PlayStation 5 controller with Hall effect sticks. Okay, I'll return back to that about why that's so important here in a second. And I actually randomly stumbled across this, so typically speaking, I'm pretty on top of video game shit and like the new fancy controllers coming out. As you can see, I'm going to share some of the other controllers I have here, and I have like way too many. But ever since like the PlayStation 5 fancy Edge controller came out with the back paddles and all that, I like this one a lot, so I basically just stopped looking into other controllers. But I randomly, lucky for my video games, unlucky for my wallet, but I stumbled across this controller when there's this other big local content creator here locally, this guy Mikhail Casanova. So I stumbled across his channel, and he talks about video games, other stuff, does interviews and podcasts, and does tech reviews. So I'm just going through his playlist of stuff, and he had a review for this controller, and I was saying like, holy shit, I've never even heard about this. Came out about maybe like 9 months ago or something like that. And he also has all the other controllers that I'll be showing here too, and he was like, oh, this is the best. And so anyway, watching that video convinced me to go ahead and check it out. Plus I looked up other reviews, and like everybody's saying this controller is awesome. However, my one gripe towards it and about why I think it could be better, I haven't heard specifically said anywhere else. So we'll cross that bridge eventually. Before we get to this thing about why it's so awesome, I thought I would go over some of the other ones. So we have the base PS5 controller. Now, I like this thing. It's cool. I do think it's one of the best controllers ever made. Specifically for the size, the fit, it's comfortable, but it has really great rumble, and the triggers give some resistance and stuff like that. However, with all these standard controllers is they don't have the back paddles. And the back paddles, when you get used to them, they're huge. Like certain games, I really just won't even play it unless I have the back paddle. So take first-person shooters, Call of Duty and stuff like that. You really need it, because then you don't need to take your thumb off of this, off of the stick to look and aim. You can keep your thumbs on it, so you don't need to press these face buttons. And instead of pressing the face buttons, you can use the buttons underneath. However, the fancy PlayStation Edge one they have, it only has 2 extra buttons on the bottom, where some of the other stuff can have 4. So yeah, but anyway, super dope controller. The only real problem with this is they don't last very long. My kids and I have gone through so many of these things, it's just ridiculous. Or they get stick drift pretty fast, and sometimes the buttons can kind of get stuck down, and they won't be as responsive and clicky. And then the battery life on them also tends to suck, but that's not too bad. You just gotta essentially charge it every couple of game sessions. But this is a really dope controller. And then also, I guess, to compare it to the Xbox controller, so this is just the Xbox Elite, the fancy version. So I like this controller too. It's very well made. The buttons seem to last a lot longer, although this gets a lot less playtime than my PlayStation ones. But it does seem very well made. It has 4 paddles on the bottom. But the problem with how this thing is set up is it's kind of like it's set up for your ring fingers to press it as well as your pointers, but my ring fingers are not coordinated and they suck, so I like to only use my pointer. So I'll try to get the bottom button with my pointer, and then if I want to hit the top one, I'll just kind of slide my finger up. But this controller is just so small, and it's not like my hands are that big, because really they're not. I think they're average size or whatever. but it's hard to consistently click both when I want, especially for my left hand. It's like I'll try to click the top one with my middle, then I'll accidentally click the bottom, and then, you know, you mess up your inputs and you die in whatever game it is you're playing. But I do like this controller. Some of the other good things it has is you can make like you can shorten the pull on the trigger, so you can like shoot people faster in Call of Duty or whatever. But it's more like just it's like a blunt stop. It's not like a mouse click, where some of the good ones got that clicky feel in it. And so if you play a lot of video games, that clicky feel is a very nice thing to have. But nonetheless, this is a dope controller. It does have rumble and things like that, but nowhere on the level that the PlayStation 5 controllers have rumble and you know, trigger resistance and things like that. But yeah, good controller overall. But then back to the PlayStation stuff. So one of the other really popular ones, man, I should have looked up the name of this. I think it's called the BFG. Whatever, just look at that one. It's one of the other popular controllers out there. This one's cool because it's really customizable. Like you can take out this face plate, you can switch them around. So instead of having offset sticks like the Xbox controllers, you can make it like you know, to be parallel like the PlayStation ones. So this is cool. It's super customizable and stuff. It has 4 buttons on the bottom, but again, it's kind of just too small, and I find that I'll sometimes, when trying to use my middle fingers, I'll accidentally, you know, not click the specific bottom button that I'm trying to click. But it also has trigger stops too, so you can make the pull shorter, but again, it's just more like a blunt stop and not that clicky mouse feel. Well, this is a cool one. I've tried to use it for like Call of Duty and shooting games, but I can't seem to aim. It's like these sticks, they don't have stick drift on me yet, but I just can't aim as good with this thing for whatever reason. So I tend to use this because it has so many extra buttons down there on the bottom and a unique design for like fighting games, or I'll use it for like third-person action RPGs like Black Myth Wukong, or you know, I primarily use this for the newer Final Fantasy games, so I did like it for that. But you know, decent. This one gets a lot of love, but in like the hierarchy of my fancy PlayStation 5 controllers, this is actually probably my least favorite. Then we have, so these two are really similar. This is the AIM controller. This is a Scuf. This was like when the PS5 first came out. I'm pretty sure this was the first brand that was making these fancy PS5 controllers with the bottom clickable buttons. And actually, I don't have one here, but like I modded one of my PS5 controllers, and you know, you can buy like this part on Amazon, and you gotta take the controller apart and install this buttons on the bottom. But that was only a two button layout instead of this 4. And so that one was cool, but it got crazy stick drift. The buttons started getting stuck down, and it just basically ended up dying because these controllers don't last very long. This is also an old controller. It has pretty crazy bad stick drift now, so I don't use it. One of the good things though about these bottom buttons is that I could very easily access and click both purposefully with just using my middle fingers instead of trying to use my ring fingers to get these bottom ones, my middle fingers for the top. So this was a cool controller, just didn't last that long. The Scuf one is pretty good. I should also say too that all these controllers like this one, and even the Hex one that I like a lot, these are just modded PS5 controllers, which is both a good and a bad thing. The good thing is it has all the built-in trademarked rumble resistant trigger stuff that you know, real PS5 controllers have. But you know, like unlike, where is it, like this one, right, where this is a totally different controller they just built in, but it doesn't have the same kind of rumble and resistive triggers that these ones tend to have. So this one has some stick drift, but it seemed to have lasted way longer, which again I think is just more of a luck of the draw thing versus this one. The only problem with this is I like the bottom extra button layout. I can access both easily with my middle fingers, but they're kind of hard to click. It's just not as it's not as smooth and as clicky as I would want it to be for it to be the absolute best. Also, it doesn't have any trigger stops, so you can only have the full pull on the triggers. But nonetheless, pretty good controller, you know, got much bad things to say about it. Now the one I wanted to be my favorite, this is the Razer Wolverine V2 Pro, whatever, like the fancy Wolverine controller for the PS5. Now this thing has so much potential. Like I love a lot about it, but just has a few things that just piss me off. So first of all, where these bottom 4 extra buttons are, As you can see, I had to modify it by super gluing popsicle stick ends on it, because they put it in such a weird spot where like it's hard for my fingers can't just rest on it. So you have to like hold the controller like this, and I got to move my middle finger over to try and hit that button or try and hit this bottom one. And so really what I ended up doing is kind of just nullifies these top bottom buttons, where I can really only easily access the ones that I put the the popsicle sticks on. Now Mikhail talked about this controller too, and he said he really liked it. His fingers can reach this bottom part here easily. But the dude's also huge, so I think his hands are just way bigger than mine, so it probably fits in better. But the real reason that makes this controller stand out more than any other controller that I've seen anywhere, Xbox and PlayStation included, is it has an additional extra 2 buttons right here in between R1, R2, and L1 and L2. And that's such a dope spot for extra buttons. I mean, it's so easy to click. I don't know why, like, they gotta start putting this on everything. And really, if this Hex controller had these extra buttons there, that would be it. That'd be the best controller ever made. The other thing that just drives me kind of nuts with this one, and I'm not sure what it is, like, it doesn't have stick drift, and I've put a lot of hours on this thing. I mean, hundreds of hours of Call of Duty time using this, but I just cannot aim as good with these sticks as I can with any standard PS5 controller. I do aim better with it in playing games like Call of Duty than I do with this one. For some reason, I can't aim for shit on Call of Duty with this. But the aim is just not there. Some of the other really excellent things though about this controller is that all the buttons have that mouse click action going on, right? The trigger buttons do, kind of on that point. So if you turn on the trigger stop for the trigger buttons, you do kind of get a somewhat of a mouse click with it. Like this one is a full-on mouse click, R1's a full-on mouse click, even in the face buttons, in like the directional pad. I don't know if you can hear that shit clicking, but so much potential with this. I just wish the sticks functioned a bit better. And they kind of feel like Holophix sticks, but I'm pretty sure they're not. And I'll get a bit more into what Holophix is here in a second. But yeah, so much potential for this. But if you can't aim in Call of Duty, well, that's a big fucking problem. So I kind of started to drift away. So like Modern Warfare 2, I'm pretty sure I had this for Modern Warfare 2, the 2022 version of it or whatever. Played all of Modern Warfare 3 with it. But then once this one came out, I switched over to the Edge, and I never looked back because I can just aim so much better. Now, it is a pain only having these 2 buttons on the bottom, right? That does kind of suck, but this controller is awesome. Stick drift is an issue, but then you can like take out the sticks and just buy $20 replacements. However, from what I've heard, I haven't tried to find those replacement sticks for me yet, although there is a little bit of stick drift in it, but I've heard they're very hard to find. They're always sold out everywhere. So yeah. Anyway, I won't have to deal with that anymore because this awesome baby came out. So the thing that sets this one apart from basically everything else is it has Holophix sticks, and basically Holophix sticks are just a way to get rid of stick drift or make it way harder to have stick drift happen to your sticks. And yeah, it's really awesome. Also, when it comes to the trigger stops, when you turn them on here, it is also like a nice mouse click in there as well too, which is good to have and very convenient. Now the face buttons don't have it like the Wolverine does. Also, the directional pad is basically like a standard PS5 controller and doesn't have the mouse clicks either. But it's really awesome. You also get the mouse clicks for the bottom buttons as well, and they're in a very awesome, wonderful spot where I can easily access everything with my middle finger, and they're very easy to press, unlike the bottom buttons on the Scuf right here. But I was super impressed with this controller. Now, I was kind of tripping when I first got it in. There was some stick drift with it just out of the box, but something else that's really cool that they include with this is, you got to get kind of fancy with it, but there's this little like ribbon. You can like take this apart and plug it in, and then you plug it into this other little device and you hook it up to a computer. You go to this website and it lets you manually reset the stick. So even if there is drift at some point for some reason, no problem. You just go onto that website and you just recalibrate it yourself, so you don't have to go send it off to some factory to have them do it for you. You can just do it yourself. Now, it is kind of trippy and confusing. I was stressing on it last night when I was trying it, but hey, it worked really good. Oh, also, this is my first time using Hall effect sticks, so I wasn't sure. I've seen some places online saying it's hard to aim with the Hall effect sticks, right? It doesn't feel quite the same. It's not like a linear progression like with regular controllers. However, I don't know what they did. They did some magic to it, or at least from what people have complained about online, because I aim perfect with these things, and it just so happens that last night when I was playing my first Call of Duty games on it, I ended up having my best Call of Duty game, at least in terms of like kill death ratio and just kicking kicking everyone's ass and owning that game with this controller. So aiming has been on point, which makes me super happy. I was scared it was going to be another situation like this controller or something, in which case it would have just been a lot of money down the drain. But yeah, I really love this thing. Super stoked. I randomly stumbled across Mikkel's channel and saw his review on this and realized that there's a new controller that came out in the past 9 months that I wasn't aware of yet. I took the gamble, bought it, and I am stoked with it. Again, the only way that can make this thing the best thing ever is if they put those extra buttons, in between the shoulder buttons. Then this would be hands down the best thing. But nonetheless, I'm super happy with it. Rambled on for probably way too long, so we'll cut it off there. Until the next video, keep your video games legit.